Thank you for taking the time to join us today for the Plus Group webinar series. Today's topic is 10 tips on placing medically or occupationally challenging DI cases. It will be presented to you by Joseph Corey, Executive Vice President and General Manager at Risk Insurance. Please note that all lines will be muted during this webinar. If you'd like to ask a question, please go to the question pane on your control panel and type it in. We'll answer the questions at the end of the webinar, but you can type them in anytime and we'll address them then. Please know we are recording this webinar. It will be sent to you along with the presentation in a follow-up email. You'll probably get that by tomorrow. And you can also view it at our website at www.plusgroupus.com. Okay, everyone, I'm going to now turn this over to Joseph.
Thank you very much, Tracy, and thank everyone for attending that webinar. I'm Joseph, and I'm, as Tracy mentioned, the person responsible here at Risk Insurance to kind of interface with our field partners. We've been a partner of the Plus Group for many, many years, and it's an absolute privilege to be here today and to kind of go over a few tips on how to place very difficult cases, whether they are medically impaired or occupational risks, for example. So let's get started. First, just a few words about I guess, who we are. We're basically, those policies are written on Fidelity Security Life paper. Fidelity Security Life Insurance Company is a focused, very niche-oriented carrier. It's a focus on very specialty markets, mostly in disability insurance as well as life, vision, dental, health, and accidental. It's a very solid and very reliable partner. It's a carrier. They're very solid financially. They actually, on an ongoing basis, are receiving accolades from the industry, and they're part of the world's top 50 top performing insurance carriers here in the U.S. From an accident and health perspective. They're also an excellent AM Best rated company, so they're very reliable, and we've been partners of them for about 25 years, so and we really never had any issues basically with their ability to deliver on their promises. Risk, we're basically part of a global specialty risk management organization. Basically, we are specialists in non-standard and impaired risks. We provide mostly the underwriting front end for Fidelity for this product. We've been first to market with a non-standard disability product in the U.S., and we have a very rich and diversified history to bring to bear here to help you place those cases, and that's what we're going to basically discuss a little bit today. Mostly what we're seeing is that we're providing the services to the field partners and the brokerage network by providing agent support, commission and billing processing, as well as obviously our main task, which is underwriting those difficult cases. We're an administrator of those plans. We're not an MGA or a BGA. We're really basically kind of part of the carrier infrastructure here to deliver those plans to the customer. Let's start by first figuring out when you should ask for risk FSL to the Plus Group. So you have cases, and obviously one of the key things is, okay, when should you basically ask the Plus Group to send you a quote from risk and FSL, and what is really a typical impaired risk situation? Obviously, they're a typical family. I mean, they don't have that printed in their foreheads. It's obviously something that you discover throughout the process of an application, and it's obviously something that happens gradually, and where you basically realize that this is a case that's going to have significant issues when you place it on the traditional markets with traditional carriers such as Principal, MetLife, Guardian, etc. And basically, it's typically somebody with a history of illness, somebody who's been maybe even declined in the past, either from for life insurance or for other types of insurance. But that's the typical profile. They may have been accepted also by the traditional carrier, but with several unacceptable medical exclusions, limitations, things that really prevent them from really benefiting fully from disability coverage. Or they may have been declined, straight out declined by the traditional market, because they've been suffering from a pre-existing medical condition, or because they're working in a very high-risk occupation. They could also be very healthy, work in very normal occupations, office type, but they're very high earners, but they have tons of existing disability insurance, and they're seeking additional coverage. So it's kind of an excessive coverage or high limits type of situation. And let's face it, our sales also, they could be also customers that you may think they're uninsurable and don't think about, okay, there is a market for those types of cases. And basically, because you're not aware of risk FSL, or basically because based on your prior experience, you feel that those cases are uninsurable. And what we're asking is that you give us the opportunity to surprise you and basically to present hopefully to present you with an offer with these types of customers. So those are the types of customers that you should basically kind of put in the category of, let's ask the Plus Group to send us a quote from risk FSL. Now let's talk about how declines and impaired risk can grow your business. It obviously doesn't happen immediately. I once talked to somebody who says, okay, don't worry, I never get declines. And after talking to him, I realized that actually what he was doing, he was just going away and leaving on the table anybody who had the slightest medical impairment. He was actually thinking that he could not grow his business, but actually what he was doing is leaving a lot of money on the table and a lot of opportunities on the table. Based on our discussions with some of the traditional carriers, and some of them are partners because they kind of consider us as their outlet for impaired risk and declines, we see that basically there's about 8 to 12% of declines in the marketplace depending on the carriers. So there's a significant upside potential that you can see by really being able to work very well those declines or work very well those impaired risks. First, two good news. The first good news is that the Plus Group has access to very specialized plans that are dedicated and targeted to those types of impairments from risk and FSL. The second good news is that on your end, there is a few tricks, a few sales tips, and we're going to cover those, that really allows you to maximize results in those types of situations. And they're typically different from what you would see in a traditional market or the traditional sales. And what we're going to focus on is to try to share with you a little bit some of those things that we've learned throughout the years, that we've seen to have some success with our field partners. For those who have adopted those sales tips, they've seen a significant uptake, and they've seen a significant uptake in terms of take-up rates from their customers in terms of impaired risks. So let's get going here and start with the very first one. The very first sales tip and good habit number one is to pre-sell. The key thing is that pre-selling works, as you know, and it positions you for success. In terms of what we do is pre-selling means to explain upfront the possibility to customers that there could be a decline or there could be significant exclusions applied to their applications. And to do that upfront in all the cases, without exception, that you feel might end up as impaired. And what we are proposing as a good habit number one is even to have upfront the risk FSL HIP authorization signed, so that the customer can see through a little bit forward, has a clear picture, forward picture of what might happen if there is a decline. And if there is a decline, you have made him sign the fact that basically he will commit and he will continue into the sales, continue the sales process, and basically start the natural continuation of the same application with a different carrier that is specialized in impaired risks. The second sales tip is once the decline or the exclusion happen or the constraints from the standard carrier happen, you need to kind of go back and sell the eye one more time. The key thing is to really continue to sell, and don't assume that you have closed that sale just because you've done it on the standard application. The normal sales cycle got disrupted by a decline, and the customer, and you have to assume that he's constantly trying to backtrack and change his mind about disability insurance. So you should sell disability insurance again and repeat the initial reasons why you do when you're in front of in the kitchen table and discussing disability insurance, have convinced each other that basically this is a good thing for the family. Now there is and put all of this in the context of the decline, because the good news is that there is now a validation of the choice that they were seeking disability coverage, because experts have basically decided that the chances of disabilities are quite high. So now the stakes are very high. They're much higher than before. So basically you're kind of preparing the customer that basically that they have to continue to persevere in the sales and continue to try to get disability insurance. So that's a very important step here, to really show the customer that the stakes are higher and to put a little bit the reasons of the initial sale in the context of the decline. The third sales tip that I want to discuss a little bit with you is what I call the silent worries of the customer. And you've all, ran into this, where, you all know that the customers are not telling you everything, obviously. And they're thinking certain things, and they're convincing themselves of the things that they're thinking about. The first thing that they think about is that you have to understand that customers have a fear of rejection, or an aversion to a rejection, basically. They react in funny ways when they've been declined or rejected. I mean, there's a sense here that, okay, if I'm going to apply, am I going to be declined? There's a sense of kind of, wounded pride in a sense. And some people react in a weird way. They say they're so afraid of rejection that they really start to convince themselves of, disabilities don't happen to me, not to me, so I'm not going to persevere. I'm not going to go again in that direction. I'm going to kind of backtrack here. That's what I call the Superman syndrome here. That's their inner voice that says they will never get basically decline again. And you have to address that by the fact that basically risk FSL has a very high take-up rates, up to 85%. The second, obviously, issue here is that they may have, they may think that they don't want another medical exam. They don't want to go through this embarrassing phone interviews and getting blood taking and medical exams again. And you have to basically reassure them basically that with risk FSL we do the underwriting up to $13,000 per month with only the APS, only the doctor's records. The fourth sales tip is to explain pricing. Pricing is very important because obviously the risks are higher, and you have to position that in the context of basically the medical impairments the customer has, and really kind of go back and explain in a very transparent way the pricing aspect. And we have the most balanced pricing in the market with guaranteed renewable products. Pricing has to be transparent. It must be very clear. And this is what you have to work on, is explaining the pricing by explaining the key benefits. The key benefits, especially for someone with severe medical conditions. The first benefit is that this will be underwritten once, so that basically if your medical condition changes over time, you shouldn't be worried, Mr. Customer, because once you're underwritten and you've been approved by our underwriters, that's it. You've got coverage, even though if your medical condition deteriorates over time. The second aspect is guaranteed renewable. There's nothing we can do here to basically cancel that, and if suddenly something happens or in the medical experience. The other aspect is its level premiums. So that basically the earliest you can do this, the earliest you can lock in the rates for younger people. And finally, by getting something with risk FSL, you have something that's in most cases with very limited exclusions compared to what, for example, standard carriers or other carriers might impose. So you have to put this in the context, basically, of basically the product. The pricing has to be put in the context of the product that basically the customer is getting. The second basically aspect to focus on, the pricing aspect that needs to be focused on, is choice. And choice is important from a pricing perspective because you have to basically give the customer kind of empower him to shape the pricing and show him that he can shape the pricing somehow by having choices of benefit periods, choices of elimination periods, and the customer knows his body. He knows he's the person in the best position to really once they see all those choices, respond back to you with basically what they really think that they should focus on and try to get. So you have to inform your cost-conscious customers of that flexibility, basically. And the reason is that you want to go back to your customer with basically 3 quotes. And we saw a significant impact here when we started basically asking some of our field partners to go back and ask for 3 quotes. The first one, which would be at a 3-year benefit period, another one at a 5-year benefit period, because obviously there's a big pricing difference. And the customer and 3 years is ample time. As you know, most disabilities are last less than less than 3 years. And actually, even in our case, for impaired risk cases, that 3 year less than 3 year also applies. And also the third quote is something that basically corresponds to a smaller benefit amount that corresponds to the price that they had budgeted basically for their standard application that got declined. So with this strategy, you can basically put three price points and really kind of talk about them and really convince the customer or focus the customer on the solution that best meets its needs. The other thing that needs to be happening when you explain the pricing is really, again, to put that into fighting perceptions. You know that they're seeing things and they're perceiving things basically maybe in a different way, right? And perceptions can be very deceiving. The first perception is, we touched base on it with the Superman syndrome, is that typically a person, and actually disability societies and organizations have done surveys to show that people typically perceive the odds of being disabled as extremely low from happening to them. They're very rare and it won't happen to them. When the actual odds of, as you know, and by talking to the Plus group and reading some of the material, is that basically the typical odds of being disabled are actually quite much higher than what people perceive they are. In reality, almost 1/3 of the workers entering the workforce will become disabled sometime for more than 90 days, sometime in their life before they retire. And now what you have to say is to put the pricing in the context of these actual odds in your specific cases of an impaired risk are actually much higher. So obviously the pricing are going to be slightly higher as a result of that. So putting really all this into kind of a perception gap and really addressing that perception gap, because if you don't address that perception gap, people will not understand pricing. So basically it's about transparency, and it's about really being able to explain the benefits and put that into basically addressing the preconceived perceptions. The sales tip number 5 really focuses on a guaranteed renewable product. There's something about the guaranteed renewable product that nearly is, I would say, mandatory for people who have impaired risks. We've been in the market for 20+ years, and we've really been specialized on this, and we really understand that market very well. And we want to make sure that your clients understand the value of guaranteed renewable products versus alternatives in the market that provide what I would call substandard coverage, not substandard cases, but substandard coverage for your client. And those are basically things that are focused mostly around term plans. If you provide term plans, I mean, you have the illusion of being on firm earth, but actually there's something fishy about it, something that's moving. First, let's look at what are the key benefits that somebody with an impaired, with a medical condition wants out of insurance and out of disability insurance. They want it to be underwritten once. This happens with a risk FSL. This doesn't happen with term plans, where the policy can be re-underwritten at the end of the term. They want level premiums to age 65. Okay, they don't want the premium increases at age at renewals. They want something that cannot be canceled, not something that can be canceled at time of renewal. And they get all of this with risk FSL. And finally, they want new exclusions. They want the fact that basically not only underwritten once, but they don't want an opportunity or a door being open here for new exclusions to be added down the road, which is something that can happen obviously with something with the term plans that have to be renewed on an ongoing basis. So these things really basically put this into perspective here, that the guaranteed renewable product from risk FSL is the most compelling solution here for people with impaired risks. Now let's talk about peace of mind and the feature and leveraging the included feature, for example, such as own occupation. One of the key aspects of obviously disability coverage, now that you've convinced the customer that the stakes are high, now that you've convinced him that basically he might become disabled and he's ready to pay for it and he's ready to choose, he chose his plan, you really want to say, okay, here's another benefit that's there. Its own occupation, the Easy Select plans that a Risk FSL offers, has embedded into it own occupation as standard for the full benefit period. It's not even an option, it's standard, so that basically they have the peace of mind here as well of having that added benefit. The other aspect about peace of mind is that even though our pricing, our policies are graded, meaning that the benefit amount for the first 2 policy years are reduced if somebody becomes disabled the first policy year number 1 and policy number 2. This only applies with the Easy Select plan, only applies to basically disabilities due to medical reasons, not for injuries, because obviously you cannot plan injuries. So this is something that shows that the plans are really designed in favor of the customer and are really being designed with the customer in mind. So basically the grading, we've removed basically the grading applying to the injuries on our newest product, the Easy Select product. Sales tip number 8 is really to show the benefit amount possibilities. And that really applies to anybody basically for whom you've seen some limits of coverage applied by the standard carriers. You see sometimes the standard carriers trying to push the cases towards guaranteed standard issues with lower benefit amounts that are being applied for, or they try to impose excessive exclusions, or for example they're trying to limit the benefit amount for clients with a lot of existing disability insurance in force. But why are you limiting? Once you limit the client coverage, you're actually giving him less than what he wants. If he wants higher benefit amounts and he doesn't want those exclusions and he's willing to pay for that benefit, even if they're accepted under another carrier than Risk FSL, it behooves us to kind of go back and say, here's something that you can have with the benefit amount that you've applied for, the very high benefit amount for, without those constraints, basically. And show them the higher benefit amount because they may want it to go for it, and obviously you'll make more commissions as well. So it's kind of a win-win situation here if you have convinced the customer that this is a good thing for them and that that's what the customer wants. So with Risk FSL, it can go up to $15,000 per month, regardless of occupation, and DI from all sources must be within 60% of income, but cannot, but can exceed a dollar cap. As you know, the other carriers put it some kind of dollar cap. I don't know, it's $25,000, $30,000 that they can get from all carriers in force. So we don't look at the dollar from a dollar perspective. As long as within the 60% of income. So and that $15,000 per month is also regardless of occupation. The ninth tip is really focused on speed and response time. It's very important, and we've seen that people who can really focus on speed of response and are able of presenting the decline news at the same time as Risk FSL offer are much more likely to close the sale than otherwise. We have relationships with carriers, for example, like Principal, where we can basically allow us to really respond extremely fast to a customer with a new offer, and they're more likely to be successful because you're basically addressing the customer when he's still engaged. And obviously, the application process and speed is something of importance to the customer because he's already gone through that application process. So you have to basically understand that he already went through 3 or 4 weeks of wait time, and you don't want to give him the impression that basically he's going to have to wait and wait again and again. So as long as he's got the doctor reports and the APS, we can move extremely fast, and really you should, in a sense, really ask for the Risk FSL super fast 3-quote solution and prelims offer that really puts you back basically, and especially if you sign this the HIPAA authorization up front as well, that puts you on really on the fast track for success. I want to spend a little bit on the last sales tip, and which is about the limitation that we impose upon ourselves, right? I mean, this is what I call the field declines, where basically, typically through the years, everybody kind of acquired a little bit of experience and says, okay, these types of things are really uninsurable. And this slide, this slide and the next one actually really give you kind of the kind of an idea of the breadth of cases that we can accept. Basically on our places, from tattoo artists, people with bankruptcy, people with severe hemophilia. So basically, people with systemic lupus, some people with pain management that are on pain management. So the opportunities here to expand your market, even to go back to the declines that you've had in the last 6 to 12 months that basically you put in your files and kind of abandon. The opportunity to expand your market is quite important, from the medical issues, the financial declines, or the high limits or excessive coverage. All of these cases can be and have a high rate of placement with risk FSL. So the important thing here is really to allow you to put this as being a specialist, not to limit your market, to send all of your difficult and impaired risk cases to basically to the plus group, asking risk FSL to quote, and that's basically an ability for you to kind of leverage and to increase your sales and to grow your market. Just wanted to focus this presentation mostly on those sales tips, but I just want to have one slide here on the product, and obviously you can read a little bit more details if by asking for a brochure. But it's a guaranteed renewable. The benefit periods vary between 1 to 5 years. It's up to $15,000 per month, regardless of occupation classes. We touch base on the grading, which is 40% year 1 on the Easy Select and 75% on year 2. There's no grading due to injuries with Easy Select, and a large choice of elimination period to tailor the policy to the client's needs and budgets. So at the end of the day, we want to be a reliable partner from you. We want to help you consider more cases with an approval rate of over 85%. We want to help you convert more applications to policies in force and help you grow your business by turning your difficult decline cases into dollars, and give you those by helping you with those 10 sales tips to work that market, which we've seen can have the potential to increase your sales by 8 to 12%. The declines can create a positive impact. If you really work that market, if you really kind of start mastering those 10 steps, you can place more applications with the applications you already have. You've already worked for them. You've already prospected for them. You already basically expended your time, your efforts in prospecting and getting these applications through the door. You can sell more with the sales you've already made. You've already made the sale. You've already convinced those customers that the disability is important. Disability insurance is important. You can cross-sell and upsell and get referrals from them. You don't miss out on commissions. This is obviously money that you're leaving on the table if you don't really have within your organization, within a certain process, a certain discipline to really go after that marketplace. Most importantly, what that allows you to do is to build your reputation as impaired risk disability experts. Build a reputation as disability experts, frankly, not impaired risk, because obviously if somebody goes to you, as obviously it's because you are the expert, and obviously being able to place difficult cases reinforces that and confirms that positioning that you will have in the marketplace. And with word of mouth, you would be able to kind of continue to do that and basically have an increase in the number of customers that you will have over time. And also, finally, the referral potential. Being able to obviously place somebody that had difficulty, the decline, obviously it gives you the right to come back and demand for a referral, to demand for that referral, because you've obviously, basically saved that customer, being able to kind of having finding coverage for him at time of need, and cross-sell other products such as life insurance or other products at the same time. Now that the customer is obviously not only this customer getting referrals for other customers, but also cross-selling other products with the same customer. So all of these really allows you to really try to close and to build that marketplace, to really go after that 8, 10, 12% uptake and into your business by working very hard on those 10 sales tips. To recap, it's to pre-sell with by having the customer signing the authorization from a risk FSL, to help the customer persevere, to resell in a sense, and put that into the context of the decline and the difficulties that he's having to get coverage as he was applying for. To address the client's silent worries. You know, he doesn't want to go and have another medical exam, or he doesn't want to be declined again. Those are silent worries that you have to decline on their behalf, even if they're not being voiced. To explain pricing in a very transparent way by providing the benefits and making sure that those benefits are well understood, so that pricing is well understood, so that there's no pushback on the pricing. Because obviously if you just put the numbers in front of him without that context, without those different choices, giving the ability for the customer to shape the pricing and to really put it into the perspective of what that provides in terms of guaranteed renewable products, which is an ideal for impaired risk as opposed to term plans. To leverage included features to really show that those features, despite the fact that they're, like maybe called substandard plans or impaired plans for impaired risk, that they have very powerful features such as own occupations and no grading for disabilities due to injuries. To show the benefit amount possibilities, even if not to allow the customer to settle down from, if he was asking for $10,000, not to settle for $3,000 unless you show him first kind of, okay, this is what a risk FSL offer would look like at $10,000. And to really go and very fast put some of these offers in front of the customer with fast response time, being able to basically close that while basically the customer is engaged. And finally, we use leveraging the aggressive underwriting that we have to really expand your market, expanding your horizon for any impaired medical cases, financial declines, or for cases that have been basically have some difficulty because of excessive coverage or high limits. So that concludes a little bit what I had to say for today, and I want to turn it over to Tracy here to discuss a little bit, maybe if you have any questions.
Okay, again, if anyone has a question, please go to the question pane on your control panel and type it in. I do have one question here, Joseph. What is the participation percentage levels with tax-free groups and taxable groups?
Okay, Mary, do you want to? Are you on the phone? So basically, the participation is 60% for individual, and it can go up to 75% with the group plans, basically. When it's Mary, can you let me know if it's when it's the employer paid, or I think if it's the employer paid,
will go up to 75%, and
75% when it's employer paid.
Right.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? If so, just type them in and we'll address them. And also, if you do have questions later on, just feel free to contact your local Plus Group office, and we'll be able to take care of it. Well, at the moment, I don't see any more questions. I think, Joseph, you did a really good job. We greatly appreciate your help in risk insurance for helping us today. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. And you can check our website at www.plusgroupus.com or contact your local Plus Group office for more information. And again, this has been recorded, and you will receive an email probably by tomorrow. Oh, another question. You will get a copy of the slides. Will come to you via email. It takes usually about 24 hours. So you'll get the slides as well as a recording of everything Joseph said. So you will be receiving that. It usually takes about 24 hours to get that. If you don't get it within 24 hours, you can contact me, or again, go to the Plus Group website at www.plusgroupus.com. or contact Tracy at plusgroupus.com. But everyone that's on the call or registered for the call should receive that. So, Joseph, again, I think you did a fabulous job. We appreciate your support, and we appreciate everyone's time today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.